All right, everyone. This is Mark and Kyle. Welcome back to another episode of the Weekly SITREP. So this is the day after Christmas. So we're talking about all the big things that happened this week, providing some, hopefully, some insightful analysis on what's going on. All in an effort to help those of you who are, looking at getting out of the military, who may be freshly out of the military, to like understand what is happening out in the world when you hear, terms in business or politics or something. All in an effort to just make you feel more comfortable about exiting back out into the wild of the civilian world. All right. So the first thing we want to talk about, Kyle and I were briefly discussing right before the show started. Yesterday was Christmas, and we both talked about, we had been deployed over Christmas. It sucks. I missed two Thanksgivings and then, at Christmas one year. Kyle, were you just gone for one Christmas, or how many were you gone for?
I was gone for one Christmas. Yeah, I basically missed like everything from Christmas up through Halloween. Of if I think about the time frame correctly, maybe I was back by Halloween. I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. Holidays gone suck, so it's definitely
Yeah,
good. It's good to be home. This year's a little different, obviously. Lots of America is kind of getting the taste of deployments a little bit, from the sense that people can't get together with family this year.
yeah,
I know I actually, my family had to cancel Christmas at the last minute because of a COVID scare inside our family. So I ended up celebrating with a bunch of my classmates here at UVA. So lots of people are kind of getting that experience, and it sucks that people have to do it because as vets we know that being gone from family over the holidays is not the most fun thing to do. So for those of you who are still out there, who are still deployed, or gone for training or whatever it is, we're just kind of wishing you good thoughts. Stay safe out there, and find some time with friends and everything, and those you're with, to enjoy the time and be with them.
yeah. It's funny, right? When you're deployed and you have these holidays, right? And you often work on these holidays unless you have some sort of like day off, right? I remember I think I had like one day off every like couple of weeks when I was deployed, and it's sometimes it's just better to work, right? Because it just takes your mind off of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think I flew missions on like the 4th of July and everything, and it's just like, it just kind of is what it is. And you're like, all right, we're just going to, this is just going to be a model again. And we're just going to like move on.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, do I want to just like sit on the base and be miserable that I'm not celebrating the holiday, or do I just like go do my job and do something else to get my mind
Yeah.
off?
Like you're going to hang out with people from your unit who are basically your friends anyway. Right. So
Right,
it's like,
right, right.
gotta do what you got to do, so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, the first section here that we're going to talk about. So we're going to start every week off with the mission brief. So this is military related news, and the first thing we want to talk about is President Donald Trump just vetoed the National Defense Authorization Act. So this is like the yearly budget for the Department of Defense. Um, and there's a couple big reasons like why he did it in particular this year. So actually within the NDAA, excuse me, there's a provision um, about renaming a bunch of military bases that are named after Confederate generals. That's part of it. Part of it also is the COVID relief package, like pressure on Congress for that. And then there is also Section 230 of the name is bypassing me right now, but it's basically like the provision in the federal code that allows for tech companies to not be held liable for what people post. Okay, so kind of a lot of things going on here. We'll kind of break them down, yeah, by each step. So Kyle, you have any thoughts about this off the cuff?
Yeah, it's, the NDAA is something that is one of the few things that passes with bipartisan majority in Congress, right? So it kind of speaks to how important lawmakers view defense, right? And defense also has a very big input into a lot of local and state economies, right? So there's a lot of incentive to just get this thing done. It's a massive bill, $740.5 billion authorization bill, 4,500 pages long, passed with veto-proof majorities. So in all likelihood, they'll probably do a veto override and give Trump his first veto override of his presidency. But I don't know. It's just like the whole the whole like reason that Trump wants to repeal it is a little, I don't know. it's he kind of signaled why he didn't want to sign it in the first place, but not for, like, I think people would define very good reasons, right? Like Section 230, of the Communications Decency Act. So it's a law passed by Congress in 1996, and basically it says that online platforms are not legally responsible for what users might post, and this has basically allowed tech companies to basically just act as be able to provide services and not really worry what people say in those services, right? And and this has allowed them to grow, right? Because millions of people can use it. They don't have to spend that much money, policing speech, or making sure that there's not like crazy stuff going across their platform. Now, they've come under fire in the past couple of years, as people have kind of said, hey, there's either like hate speech, there's like misinformation, et cetera, et cetera. But what Trump is really specifically focused on is he feels that many of these many of these social media organizations have like basically like suppressed conservative voices, what they put like the little like fact check thing, or like
Yeah.
post election thing. And he probably has like a point, right? I think some people say that they would rather, there'd be, you don't want social media companies basically trying to arbitrate, and say what's real and what isn't, right? You want to left that up to, like, the basically the market of free speech. But repealing Section 230, which is basically what he says he wants in this bill without like any debate, would be a really bad idea. And it would be a really bad idea because it would enable it's something that requires actual debate in Congress, because there's real like economic and ramifications to this. Like, if you do this, you're going to really mess up the business model for a lot of these tech companies, right? You could greatly harm the economy. You could, and there's like tons of like second, third, and fourth order effects.
Yeah.
Um, and it could lead to more censorship, right? Because now if companies have to basically police everything that comes across their platforms, right? Like, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to probably get really restrictive, right? And say like, hey, like, we're just going to like, we're if it's anything political, boom, it's not going to be on the platform. And it's going to be a huge OpEx cost to them, and it would drive down profitability. So there's real like ramifications to this, and it should be debated in Congress. But I don't know if repealing it at the last minute is the like the best idea.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, to like try and implement a repeal of this thing for all these tech companies, like, can you imagine if Facebook or Instagram or Google or anyone had to start policing every single thing that every
yeah,
single person posted? You're right. I mean, it would just drive up costs. They wouldn't be able to function anywhere near like
yeah,
they're able to do now. And there's a reason, Twitter's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all these companies have come from the United States, because a lot of other countries have more restrictive policies, and it doesn't allow the same business model that like we see from the big tech companies here in the U.S. So
yeah.
yeah, this is not like a step to be taken in lightly. And I agree with you that like, there's a bit of point here. It needs to be talked about and discussed, but we can't just like repeal this thing and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such like it's very complicated, and but it'll continue to be a conversation here in the next for the next couple of years, because both the left and the right are focused on it. And and some of the tech companies have tried to step up their self policing and everything. So I don't know. There might be at some point it gets sunset. I've heard that as an option, but I yeah, I hope there's more rigor and debate applied to this before we decide to go and start ripping apart major parts of our economy for reasons that are not entirely cemented. So
Right, right. Yeah, this will be the kind of thing that if there was going to be some type of serious change in this policy, companies would need, I mean, years to prepare for this in order
mhm.
to, recalibrate their operations to now deal with this. Because I mean, it would completely upend a lot of business models that we see out there right now.
Well, it would also like say if they did repeal it and he did sign it, right, uh which will probably not happen, because they'll just do a veto, they'll just do an override, because it's they have the votes. But if they did, it would immediately get put into court. There would be like all sorts of legal challenges issued, right? And it might go up to Supreme Court, right? So even if they did do it, nothing would happen for a while. But it would be something that would play a lot of chaos, because it would introduce uncertainty into basically the profitability model of a lot of these companies, and investors just wouldn't know what to do, right? They'd basically be betting on what courts were going to say, and that can be tough, But it's yeah, it's interesting, and it's weird that it's kind of wrapped up in the NDAA, which is not where you would want to wrap it up. I don't know, like put it like NDA is a pretty critical piece of legal authorization, or a pretty critical piece of legislation, right? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about why you would try to wrap it up there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So we'll keep abreast of this and kind of see what happens. But this is some pretty important stuff going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so to move into the Civi Sit Rep, so this is the we're kind of moving away from the military national defense space and moving back out into the civilian business world here. So Kyle sent me this article called "How Amazon Wins by Steamrolling Rivals and Partners." So Kyle, do you kind of want to mention like why you picked this one out about what you want to discuss this week?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Amazon is Amazon is a big target of people, right, for a lot of different reasons, and it's weird, right, because everybody uses Amazon, but also everybody criticizes Amazon for some of its business practices, right? And Jeff Bezos' philosophy behind Amazon is, even though it's a massive, well-established company with huge corporate governance, and they still are incredibly aggressive with everything. And I think from this Wall Street Journal article, it says the ethos that keeps Amazon booming, aggressive competition, including wrestling market share from rivals, is often a hallmark of a successful business. Uh, it's why the tech and retail giant is the target of rivals, regulators, and politicians who say its tactics are unfair for a company of its size and potentially illegal. And so basically what Amazon will do, right, is as successful, because they have all this data, right? They know it's being sold in their on their platform. When they see successful products being sold, they will go about copying some of these products, right? So if you were like, because Amazon has a bunch of small businesses and they also pay attention to the larger market, right? So if you start selling something on Amazon that you're making or you've come up with and it's booming, Amazon will essentially copy it and sell the private brand label of it. They've done this, and they've entered more and more of these markets, right? Like there's this graph in front of me, and it basically shows like, hey, okay, they're selling office products, sporting goods, jewelry products, baby products, Amazon basic electronic accessories. Amazon sells a copy of Allbirds, which one of my favorite shoes on its platform. It's very cheaply. Here's one great quote. No competitor is too small to drown Amazon's sites. It cloned a line of camera tripods that a small outside company sold on Amazon's site, hurting the vendor's sales so badly it is now a fraction of its original size, the little firm's owner said. Amazon said it didn't violate the company's intellectual property rights. I mean, this is stuff that pisses people off with good reason. And it's something that introduces, I think, like both regulatory and reputational risk for the company, but they seem to not care and just are going to go plow forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one there, I think most people probably don't even know that they do this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously having an article like this is going to create that reputational risk. But most people probably didn't know that, they had made an Amazon brand copying off of Allbirds, right? Um, and you look at like why and like how Amazon is able to do this. So one, they just have, because they're such a huge company, they have the ability to slice off a team of people and be like, work on this. And like, this is your sole job, is to recreate this brand. So versus, having to recreate everything from a startup and get invested in everything, like they're just using the behemoth power of Amazon to make this like little mini brand within Amazon. And then additionally, because so many people use it, they have all the data of like how people search for this product, how people buy this product, that they can just like tailor make it to what they know is going to be the optimal thing that people are going to use.
Yeah, it goes back to Jeff Bezos' kind of core philosophy, right? He's a relentless capitalist, and in his pursuit of relentless capitalism, he's created untold amounts of wealth and jobs for other people, which would be basically the supply side view to look at it, which is kind of what everybody on Wall Street believes. Um, I mean, here's this is a really funny quote. He says, Jeff Bezos still exhorts employees to consider Amazon a startup. It is always day one, he likes to say. Day two is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. Mr. Bezos originally considered calling his company Relentless, and www.relentless.com still redirects to Amazon's site. All right, so that's like the baseline that you're dealing with here. And I don't know. I don't know. Like sometimes these articles do prompt, and journalism does prompt some change in Amazon. I remember several years back, there's some articles that came out that basically said Amazon was a nightmare to work at, right? And the PR was so bad that it forced them to basically take a hard look at the culture within the firm. Maybe this will do something similar. Who knows? But I mean, it can be hard to root for big business when it squashes the little guy even if it's even if you really kind of do believe in capitalism as an economic model. So yeah, it pretty crazy to see, but
Yeah, very, very much a lot of this is, I mean, Jeff Bezos, I think is the richest man in the world. I'm assuming, I know he's at least, got to be at top three or whatever.
I think
Uh,
I think it rotates like depending on what the stock market is
right,
doing,
right, right.
right?
But he's
Yeah,
absurdly ungodly rich.
yeah.
That's all that really matters. And he's gotten that way like pretty fast too, all things considered.
Hmm.
And so people look at that and they're like, dude, like you have more money than you could ever possibly dream to do with. I saw a stat one time that Jeff Bezos would have to spend $28 million a day to just like break even. Like versus
Yeah.
because his money is accelerating at such a rate from growth in Amazon and other investments and everything, he had to spend $28 million a day to like not lose money, which is just bonkers. So people look at that and they're like, "Why are you trying to squash these small businesses?" And like it just feeds into that brand that you discussed earlier.
Yeah, I think the counter argument that Amazon always makes is that the expansion of their business creates more jobs, right? And that it's going to happen anyway. So but like I said, that kind of philosophy is not going to fly with a lot of people outside of, people on Wall Street or supply siders who really believe in almost no regulation. So
Yeah, your hardcore capitalists are like, yeah, man, 100% get it. Everyone
mhm.
else who isn't necessarily like a hardcore capitalist is feeling a little cringy about it. Okay,
Yep.
all right. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is Brexit. So for years, Brexit has been the gift that keeps on giving because it's just is like the never-ending news story. I think when was the original Brexit vote, Kyle? Do you remember?
I think it was back in like 2016.
That sounds about right because I think it
Yeah.
happened either like right before or right after our election. I know it was
Yeah.
somewhere right around there. And it is just taking them years to get this. And it looks like it might kind of finally be happening with the EU. Although, I don't know, man. I mean, we've been saying that for years now, but I think this is it.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to happen. And Brexit has like really, Brexit has like caused the British government to turn over like twice, right? Which like, we in the United States, we our governments don't turn over, our government doesn't turn over like that, but in the UK, like I mean, it's a different system, and it's forced out, a lot of their leadership, right? As they've basically tried to recalibrate and kind of like get the right leadership to kind of get the deal done. Um, and the reason I think it's going to happen is because both the UK and the European Union have basically said that the agreement is done, right? So it's like the UK and European Union secured an agreement over their future relations, and they set in the seal on the 26th British referendum. Um, and for those who haven't like been over to Europe, right? Like one of the reasons that this is such a big deal is if you went to the UK, like as soon as you kind of step in the European Union, it's almost like being in the United States in a way. Is you can move between countries that are literally different countries, right? We're kind of spoiled here because the United States has a very homogenous culture. But over in there, I mean, you go from France to Germany, they're speaking two different languages. You go from Germany to the UK, they're speaking two different languages, right? And to have this kind of free trade, free immigration movement has been something that is both an achievement, but has also introduced a lot of it has made people upset, right? Because like much like here in the US, you're saying, oh, the bureaucrats in Brussels, are making decisions for a country, right? The UK, which is an independent country, right? It's not, I mean, it's different than it's saying like, hey, Colorado or something. And they've basically had to resolve all these issues like immigration and basically movement of people is a big one, right? Because
Yeah, that's been a huge one.
yeah, I mean, because like it's right, like the UK is like right off Europe, right? Like it'd be a huge pain if you had to like go through like get like a visa to go to like France or something. I mean, they have the channel for God's sakes, where you just like drive your car on, and the next thing you know, you're in France. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, whatever kind of quiets this down and basically allows what they basically want is Britain basically wants to have like some level of higher sovereignty than they do now, but then still have all the benefits of being in the EU, and it kind of looks like they might have that. I don't know. I heard it was based off the Canada model, but
Yeah, I think the important thing for everyone to kind of take away from this whole story is, I mean, one, that I think this is going to happen. It very much looks like this is going to be the finalized deal. Uh, two is that what people really want out of this whole thing, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, is certainty. They want the ambiguity taken out of the picture. Businesses want to know what is going to happen with this deal, because that affects trade between their countries, that affects workers, how they move and everything. And it's just been such in flux the last couple of years, that no one's just had that like good sense. Even if like a good policy is put out in the interim between the UK and the EU about what's happening with the Brexit talks, there's still that underlying uncertainty about people don't know what is going to happen. And it now finally looks like that certainty is coming to the UK and the EU, and so that just helps people plan and invest and like do things with more certainty, knowing that the economic climate is going in a certain direction.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, they're still going to have to adjust to some complex trade changes here, right? So under the terms of the accord, both sides will continue to trade free of tariffs, but there'll be a significant new bureaucracy for importers and exporters. The free flow of workers between the two economies will end, and trade and services will be much reduced, right? So what they'll have to do is they'll basically have to then start to sign a bunch of bilateral trade agreements between different countries, as opposed to having it all fall under kind of one blanket trade agreement. And that'll still take a while, right? So this will still go on for a little bit. But it's at least they kind of have like the right framework for it to be over. Because without it, like if they just like did like a hard Brexit, like it would have thrown like everything into chaos, right? Like it would have not been something you'd want to see.
Yeah, yeah. What I really found. So I think I was traveling in the UK, not too long after Brexit, um, and I remember like riding on the bus or whatever and talking to some Brits, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like Donald Trump, he's the new president. Like, what's this like?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you guys just did Brexit. Like, can we talk about that?" And they're like, "Can we not talk about that right now? Can we just talk about? I want to talk about America and not hear about Brexit anymore." So
Yeah.
like the British people, I mean, probably everyone in Europe is just like worn out and just wants this to be done and over with.
Well, it's going to be interesting. This is going to be a real time experience experiment in deglobalization, right? This is sort of
Yeah.
the same thing that Trump kind of rode the 2016 campaign on, was, hey, like we don't want to be as globalized in the UK, right? So we're going to see exactly what this means, right? And what sort of frictions this introduces into trade, and how that basically affects an economy. So stay tuned, I
All
guess.
right, all right. Okay, so going back to some U.S. politics involving President Donald Trump. So Trump has threatened to disrupt the COVID relief package. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen that Congress recently passed their COVID relief package. So this includes another edition of the checks sent out to everyone. Right now, it's currently listed, I think, at like $600 a person. Trump wants to bump that up to 2,000, I believe.
Yeah.
And then there's some additional stuff in there about relief to states and helping the vaccine get out, and all kinds of stuff. And Trump is getting in the way of it, primarily because of that price point. Like he wants the checks to be higher, and I mean I think he's got a point. Like $600 a month. I mean, there's lots of people out there that I know could use $600 a month, but for a lot of people, like it's just not really going to make any dramatic difference. Like it's not even going to cover rent for a lot of people, and so
Yeah.
like this one-time payment of $600 is like what is kind of getting in the way of a lot of this debate over this.
Yeah, I think there's, I think it's always tough to talk about stuff like this, right? Because politics can really kind of make people go bonkers, right? And who really
Yeah.
knows kind of what Trump is thinking? I think the general idea behind it, right, is his negotiators, right? So Steve Mnuchin, who's runs the Treasury, basically said like, hey, like negotiated like all this in here, right? And then he kind of rejected it at the last moment. So like the $600 was something his administration asked for. The foreign aid that everybody's griping about, his administration asked for, right? And so I think the maybe charitable explanation behind this is that Trump is trying to maybe flex his, basically saying like, yeah, I'm still in charge of the executive portion of the government, because he has, as people are getting closer to, both January 6th, when Congress, certifies the election, and then when January 20th, which is when his term ends, he's kind of like started to like fade from, like the media and everything. And this is a way for him to kind of grab attention back. I actually bet he signs it, because if he doesn't sign it, it's going to disrupt the COVID vaccine distribution. which is basically one of his signature achievements and something that he would like to basically be able to talk about for continuing years to come, right? So this is just a way for him to kind of refocus attention. And I really does hope he sign it, because if not, the government's going to shut down. And the government shutdown, always harms people at the bottom first. Contractors get screwed out of money. People, it's like a really, really tough time. I mean, like a janitor is not going to get paid who's like contracted to like clean the Capitol, right? And
Yeah.
like why should this guy get caught up in Washington politics? And and the $600 payments, right? I mean, I there's no way they're going to get it above that. Like there's just no way. This is a massive omnibus bill, and the sort of like log rolling that occurs in Capitol Hill to kind of get everybody on board here. Like you're either behind the log or in front of the log as it rolls down the hill. If they start opening up the bill, like the whole thing is going to fall apart, right? Because it does have a bipartisan vote total behind it. So I highly doubt they'll get it up to it, and I bet he just signs it. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think you're spot on with your take of he really has and when I say he, I mean the president really has the opportunity here to make like a COVID relief package his kind of his thing. Like that's like his legacy of like what he's going to be remembered
Yeah.
for good or bad. And I think for him, like it's a good opportunity to have a good legacy of here's what I did, Operation Warp Speed, getting this
Hmm.
thing out as quickly as possible, and like flexing the might of the American economy and American research institutes and everything to make this happen. And I think it's a pretty good peg to hang your hat on. And I don't think he wants to miss that opportunity. I think you're right.
Yeah, he's also something else to consider too is that Washington announced that they had this deal, right? And so all these senators and representatives, including the two senators in Georgia for the January 5th Senate runoff, came back and said, hey, we've got this, relief is on the way, right? And Trump to basically like backtrack on that and has put them in a bind, right? And so
Yeah.
he introduced this risk that these people could lose the January 5th Senate runoffs, right? Like say if the government goes into a shutdown and he like blames Congress for it and hey, they didn't acquiesce to my demands, and people seem to be more loyal to Trump, right? Elements of the Republican Party than they are to these two, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler over in Georgia, right? So there's a possibility that like his actions could, or many of his actions could help, the Republicans lose the Senate, right? And if they do, he will take the blame for that, because you're going to have Bernie Sanders like running the Budget Committee, right? Which probably for the people who've gone to business school, that might seem like not a good thing, right? To simply, or even for defense, right? I mean, the Democrats, if they control the Senate, will drastically cut spending on defense, and they'll also have the ability to start moving through very large pieces of progressive legislation, given that they even if it's 50-50, they'll have the vice president as a tiebreaker. So I don't know. There are lots of consequences that this has, and and I think this may be one reason Trump stepped in and basically flexed his muscle. Like we talked, just to let the Republican Party know that he still thinks he's in charge, right? But
Yeah.
we'll see. Politics is dynamic.
The
Um,
the follow-on effects and the implications on the Georgia runoff are big. Yeah, because it's really going to determine who controls the Senate after this. And
mhm.
it's not a small thing. Okay. Well, before we head into, we're going to talk about NBA missions here for a little bit. We kind of have a fun thing we just wanted to share with you all. So every year, PNC, the bank, does this thing called the PNC Christmas Price Index. And so what they do is they take the 12 items or the 12 all the items that are talked about in the 12 days of Christmas. So like partridge in a pear tree, two turtle doves, three French hens, all that crap, and they determine how much it would cost to buy all this stuff, right? And so it's like someone's job at PNC to call up like a turtle dove dealer, excuse me, and be like, how much does it cost to buy two turtle doves, man? And like go down to Zales or whatever and look how much 5 golden rings would be. And then they put this all together, and it's kind of just like a fun thing to look at. So like the standard model that's used in economics and in the business world is consumer price index, and it's like what we use, what everyone uses to kind of understand like what prices are like for consumers to buy stuff. And this is just kind of a play on that. It's kind of fun to look at. So just to kind of give you all some sense of the pricing. So we have 4 calling birds at $599.96. We got 7 swans a swimming at
What,
13,125.
hey, Mark, why don't we give them a baseline here, right?
Yeah.
So in 2019, the total Christmas price index was $38,993.59, which was a 0.2% increase from 2018. The total price index now for 2020 was $16,168.14, or a negative 58.5% drop. So, kind of like shutting down the economy has kind of sent everything flying through the windshield here. So, I mean, that's a huge price index drop, on these these Christmas items here that you would recognize. So why don't we like, as we keep going, let's maybe like give what the percentage drop is here for each of the items.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I kind of want to talk about is so I'm not going to go through every step of the song here, but if you know things like nine ladies dancing, 10 lords
Hmm.
weeping, and everything, what they decided to do is say this is not available. So like
Yeah,
that's why there is this huge steep price drop, right? And realistically, you could go find 10 guys and say that they're dancing and put them outside and social distance and everything. But I think what's really happening here is that the company is using this as an opportunity to make a statement and
yeah,
like be there in support of the actions that are being taken with COVID safety protocols and say, okay, this thing, putting people together to dance or maids and milking or whatever it is, uh, you can't do that in 2020 because of social distancing and COVID safety protocols and everything. So like that's why the price index has dropped so much.
yeah. They basically say like any live performance is not available, right? So as that's going to significantly drop the overall price index. The six geese a lane, $570. That's increased by 35.7%. So apparently geese, major. If you're bull on geese, right, you could have made some money.
Man, I knew I should have bought some goose eggs last year, but
Yeah, hey, yeah.
missed
Hey,
that opportunity.
well, actually, the turtle doves were better. That was a 50% increase.
Oh damn, what's going on in the turtle dove market? We
I
should do.
Yeah, apparently that's big benefactor of COVID here. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, we'll wrap this up. Feel free to take a look at it. Just Google PNC Christmas Price Index. It's just a fun thing to scroll through, and they change it every year. Someone has that illustrious job
yeah,
of doing that, right?
yeah.
Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about. So the NBA Round One admission cycle is about to wrap up, or is wrapping up right now, I think.
Hmm.
And then they'll
Yeah.
go into round two here pretty shortly.
Yeah, so for those, I think one reason I wanted to talk about this, right, was just kind of orient people to what these admission cycles look like, right? Because if you're thinking about an MBA or you've never done one, right, or you're not familiar with the process, right, there's like a kind of this long extended application process with different rounds that you can apply in, right? And most schools follow this format, and so the whole round one admission cycle basically like starts like in late summer, or like mid to late summer, right, when schools start to open up their applications, and ends in December. And the kind of rhythm of it, right, is, hey, have these we're going to have these applications open up. There's going to be like an application end date, right? Send in your applications, right? And then the school's going to take a look at it, review everything, extend interview invites, and if you get an interview invite, you're going to it's a much greater chance you're actually going to get admitted to the school. And then they kind of tell people, and if you don't get an interview invite, you're probably going to get denied or waitlisted. And you might even get waitlisted, after you do your interview, or denied, So but pretty much these schools send out these admission acceptances, right? Basically in December, right? So early December to kind of mid December, they try to get it wrapped up before Christmas, to give everybody time to kind of review the offers, see which one works best, take a look at scholarship money that they got, right? Ask schools for more scholarship money. And so then, yeah, so then the round two admission cycle has opened up, right? And then that'll close like sometime in I think like February,
That
right?
sounds about right. I can't remember exactly, but it sounds about right.
Yeah. So, but like round one is really where if when I talk to people about MBA admissions, right, and obviously that's kind of like it's something I've kind of centered my whole sit reps thing around, is you try to say to people, you really want to apply to round one, because that is where the money is at, right? Because they're going to give away a good portion of the scholarship money, right? So your chances of actually getting scholarship money are highest in round one. You should obviously apply when you have the best profile, right? Because at the end of the day, you just want to get into the school. But hopefully you've done enough like preparation that you can kind of have that profile going into round one and give yourself the greatest opportunity to get scholarship money.
Yeah. And I want to point out there for, all the vets that are listening that the scholarship money, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, well, like, I have the GI Bill and I've heard of this thing called the Yellow Ribbon Program, you still want to get some scholarship money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for example, pretty much all the private schools, you're still going to have a shortfall, even if you have 100% GI Bill and they have the Yellow Ribbon Program. That's not going to cover everything. Okay. And then even if you go, like I go to a public school, so it's like 100% covered by the GI Bill. But if I get scholarship money on top of that, then that just comes back to me. So I can just like straight pocket that. Like I talked to someone who went to Berkeley Haas, which is, like a top 10 school and a public school. And so they had a fully funded GI Bill, so everything was covered. Well, they also got picked up for like a very prestigious fellowship there. So it was like $80K or something. And like, they just got that money.
So that's the situation you want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so that's all to say that like you do want to care about scholarships when you're applying, even if you have the GI Bill. Don't just think, oh, I'm a vet, I'm good, I'm covered, I don't have to worry about this at all. But
like when I went to Tepper, right? Like I had the GI Bill and Yellow Ribbon, and Tepper gave me a $20K scholarship, right, to basically ensure that I didn't have to pay for anything. But there were other people who didn't get that scholarship, other vet admits, and they had to kind of find ways to close the delta there, right? Usually with student loans. So yeah, definitely something you should be thinking about. I mean, these like private schools, and you can like easily just tuition go upwards of over $150,000 for the 2-year program, right? And so you're really trying your hardest to kind of stay out of debt here. So yeah, but definitely, apply when you're ready, but try to be ready for round one.
Yeah, yeah. And a good technique. So actually, like how I got into Darden was I did the early action applications. So it's like a pre-round one thing. So essentially what it is like I had to get all my shit together way earlier and submit that in like September. And then they gave me the notification, I think like a week or two before round one. And the deposit was due like a week or two before round one notifications. And so I know Darden does that. I think Fuqua does it. Columbia does.
Columbia.
I don't know if anyone else off the top of my head, but there are a few options out there if you like really want to go to a certain school to get that early application process in.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was a pretty good episode today. Before we officially end anything, Kyle, you got any last words you want to say?
No, I mean, I hope everybody has a great holidays and everything, and and enjoy it. And the end to COVID is, the beginning of the end is in sight, right? And these vaccines are being distributed. Hopefully by middle of next year, life will have returned somewhat to normal. But I hope everybody has a great holidays.
Yeah. Stay safe, y'all. And last thing, if you're listening to this in the podcast format, we'd love if you leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. It also helps other vets find it when they're searching for podcasts.
Yeah, reviews are important.
Yeah, so big time. We appreciate any reviews you all leave. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.